before we
That's
start.
true. Okay, we are
We're live.
Amazing. Yeah. Good morning. It is January 19th, and we're in Senate Economic Development Housing and General Affairs. We are starting our morning talking about the economic impacts and benefits of childcare. And we're going to start with our Joint Fiscal Office and Joyce Manchester giving us a really brief high-level overview of the discussion that's starting to take place this week post-RAND report. Hi, Joyce. Good morning. Thanks.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thanks for letting me zoom in. I'm supposed to be in two
We can't hear you, so just give us a second to figure out. Try
Hello?
again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Getting better now. I mean, we can hear you faintly, like you're.
Can you turn it?
Let's see, is this better?
It's
Yes.
getting there.
How is this now?
Yes, that's great now.
Good.
Perfect.
It's good, okay.
It did
Very
today,
good.
and then it lasted.
All right, thank you and good morning, everyone. So as you know, Act 45 was passed in 2021, and that required the Joint Fiscal Office to contract with an economist or a consulting firm to do a study of how much it would cost to provide high quality, accessible early care and education for Vermont's families. So we now have that study. As you know, it was released on Tuesday. The RAND Corporation did a very nice job on the study, in my opinion. And the parameters of what it means to have a high quality, accessible early care and education system includes that families would pay no more than 10% of their income for childcare, and that the early care and education workforce would receive compensation that is equivalent to their peers. So that means for equivalent experience or education, they would have equivalent compensation. And I'm saying compensation, not wages, because it includes fringe benefits as well. The second task for the RAND study was to identify stable state revenue sources to fill the funding gap. So as you know, the state already provides quite a lot of support in terms of CCFAP, our subsidy program for early care and education. And we also get a lot of federal money to help pay for early care and education. And of course, families are paying a good chunk of money as well. So the study was released on Tuesday. The bottom line figure is that the funding gap is between 179 million and 279 million. And the range there is dependent on how far up the income scale the subsidies would go for the CCFAP, the subsidy program in Vermont. And they're also dependent on the kinds of support that we would be offering to the early care and education system. So in addition to identifying that gap, they looked at various funding mechanisms, and probably the big ones are a payroll tax or an additional sales tax or a new sales tax on services. They also offer some bundling of tax revenue sources that would put together various sources. So overall, it was felt that the benefits would accrue to families and to employers who would benefit from a more stable and available workforce. And of course, the children who get a better start in life and end up being more productive members of society. So that's a very high level overview. And of course, I'm sure you have lots of questions, and I'm happy to answer a few questions in 2 minutes that remain, or I'm happy to come back to the committee at a different time if that would be suitable.
Thanks, Joyce. I think we'll hold questions, and at least 3 of us get to ask all the questions we want of the RAND Corporation and others in our afternoon committee. I'll give Senator Harrison and Senator Clarkson a brief window to see if there's anything clarifying you would need to know about our childcare conversation.
No, I'd just like to add, Joyce, the state benefits too.
Absolutely.
I mean, parents, business, and so it's those 3 legs of the stool that need to be equitably involved in financing childcare, which was, and as you pointed out, the state does in large measure already through several ways.
Great.
And parents obviously, and sons.
Thank you, Joyce. And I don't know, you can also go on with your day, or you can listen with, one part of your brain, whatever you want to do. So,
Right,
but
I have
thanks,
all my
and
screens,
Nate-
all my screens are on.
Yeah, but yeah, if you disappear, that's okay, but there may be some questions we want to return to JFO with during our testimony. So I think it may have been communicated that, we have a large witness list, but we left a little bit of a buffer so that people could speak for 4 or 5 minutes, and then we would have time for one question per witness potentially. And I would probably give preference to a senator from your district, your own constituents. But otherwise, we'll try to get one question in per witness. And we're really grateful you all are here. We know you're very, very busy at helping to run our state and our economy. And we appreciate you being here. Michelle Ash from Twin Crest Skincare. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Keisha. So, hi, everybody. I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this opportunity to talk with all of you, because this issue has become something that's very important to me and to our family business. So my husband and I run Twin Craft Skincare. We employ 300 people, and we have 3 facilities in Winooski and Essex. And we just celebrated our 50th year in business, and we plan to stay in Vermont. We have a son in the business, and we don't plan to sell. The idea is to pass on to the next generation. So, and we both love living in Vermont and have no plans of relocating our residence. So feel very, very committed to the state of Vermont. So like all businesses, the success of our business depends on the people, 100% on the people. So as an employer, we do things like strive to have really good paying jobs, excellent benefits, fill the gap where needed. We have working bridges from United Way come in. We do babies to work, so parents can bring their babies to work up until 6 months old. We're trying all sorts of innovative healthcare delivery models because we're self-insured. And then it became apparent before the pandemic that childcare was a huge issue for our employees. We lost some key employees because they couldn't find childcare. Recently, we lost some because they couldn't afford it. And like we always do, like I think a lot of Vermont businesses do, is like, all right, well, let's just see what we can do for employees. Let's try to figure this one out. And so I got deeply involved and actually went to the city of Winooski, and I thought, maybe I'll just pull employers together and we'll start a childcare center. Like, let's try to do something. And I learned then, and this is again before the pandemic, that the city of Winooski had a $100,000 grant they had to return because they put it out to all the childcare centers, and they said, the childcare center said, yeah, there's a huge demand, but we can't take the money. We can't open another center. We don't have enough teachers. I was like, okay, I'm a business person. Demand is way up here. Why isn't supply eventually meeting it? Because there's an opportunity here. And when I started digging in, I realized that this was not something the free market could fix for a whole host of reasons that I'm sure all of you are very well aware of. And we thought about doing it ourselves. And it was, we're manufacturers, we're not childcare providers. There's that old, I see you knitting, there's that old saying, stick to the knitting. Like, we really have to stick to what we do well. And so I started asking the question with a lot of my peers, like, we've got a serious problem. And then the more I talked to folks, the more I realized it was across the whole state. And that if we all chipped in, we all chipped in, we could create that necessary infrastructure for business to grow. And what I want to add to this, there's a couple of things. I'm also on an investment committee, so we invest in Vermont business startups, and it's the same story. I got to tell you, first of all, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of creative entrepreneurs in the state, and the same two things come when I talk with them. Where are employees that we recruit going to live, and who's going to take care of their babies? It's the same thing. And so there's a lot that the free market can do for housing. There's nothing in the past 5 years in studying this that the free market can do for childcare. We've got to do something. In addition to that, during some wild times that Keisha remembers, I was chair of the Burlington Police Commission. That was during those wild times that all of you know about.
You take on such easy stuff.
And one of the things I learned in that role is that 70% of the people incarcerated can't read at a 4th grade level. I was stunned, and I talked to my sister, she's a literacy expert and coach in the public schools in Vermont. And I said, Jill, like, what's going on? Like, what can we do? This is a significant number. Like there's like a definite causal relationship here. And she said to me, you want to really do something? Follow the science. The brain science is so clear. It's birth to 5 that sets kids up to learn how to read and be successful in all aspects of their life. And I thought, my whole life, I don't play defense, I play offense. I resigned from the police commission. I admire the people doing the work, and I decided to focus on childcare, which is offense. So when I really look at childcare, I look at the economics of it, and then of course the long-term benefits. What I say now, when I talk to all of my peers, it's the investment that keeps on giving. We in business know you can't grow your business without investing in it. It's just impossible. You need to invest. So when I look at the state of Vermont, we can't grow unless we invest. That's just the way that economics works. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, because I know it takes a lot of courage, just like all the Vermont entrepreneurs that are having the courage to invest and start their own business. It takes a lot of courage to make this kind of investment in the state. But I think that it's not often that an investment opportunity like this comes along. This opportunity grows our economy, grows good paying jobs, grows our kids. Also is the best shot that we've got, in my opinion, to shifting our changing demographics. This is what's going to attract young families to Vermont. I have 5 children from 24 to 31, 5, and 4 of them don't live in the state. And I know that if they could have quality childcare that they could afford, that would be a big draw to come back. Like, we would be positioning ourselves to compete with other states in a really significant way. So
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Yeah.
I dare say they might have put their most passionate witness first, but we'll see how competitive it gets. But thank you. And Senator Carson, you look like you want to ask
Well,
a
I'm
question,
just-
I'll give it to you.
And I'll ask all of you, which is, and what mechanism? So 2 questions really, part of the same question, which is, I'm abiding by it. It's challenging. Do you offer a child care benefit? One, A, so I don't get away with 2 questions, but A, and B, do you support, would you support a payroll tax that to help pay for this from business?
we don't offer any financial child care support for employees. We offer the babies to work space, which allows parents to
Right, no, I heard that.
And we would 100% support a payroll tax. It would be, if we were to ever do something on our own, it would be far more than expense. And we wouldn't do it nearly as well. And we want to stick to the knitting of manufacturing and not childcare. So yes, we would 100% support
Great.
payroll tax.
Thanks, Michelle. You can stay there
Okay.
because we're going to Zoom, I believe, to Bill Stritzler from Smuggler's Notch.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Bill Stritzler, and I'm the managing director and owner of Smuggler's Notch Resort, America's family resort. This morning, I'm going to tell you this morning the Smug story. Now, not many can do what we've done. We realize that, but all can benefit from what we have done if what we have done becomes universal. I was thinking back, I think I last testified on this subject in 2009 when I was the chair of the Business Roundtable at the time. So here we are, 13 years later, and I'm testifying again on the same subject. And a lot has happened in between. I've had an opportunity to participate in many many meetings and subcommittees on this subject. And last year, around February, Smugglers was faced with a real crisis in our efforts to recruit people that we needed to be able to provide our guests with the service that we wanted to provide them. Despite the fact that we were bringing in 70 or 80 international employees for the coming summer, we had many, many jobs that were unfilled. And we were trying to figure out how to fill them. And what we knew, because of our community relations, that there were lots of parents in the community that didn't have jobs that would like to have jobs. So here we were faced with a perfect storm opportunity for a business, bringing together the needs of the community with the needs of our business. So we decided that we would offer free childcare, a subject that I was pretty familiar with, having participated in many meetings on the subject over the years. I can tell you that was not without some internal angst. Our financial people, of course, said to us, well, what's the ROI going to be, Bill, on Smugglers providing free childcare? So my answer was, we're not going to do an ROI. That's going to be time consuming and probably won't be able to lead us in the right direction. Anyway, we don't do an ROI on supporting the sheriff's department. We don't do an ROI on plowing our roads when it snows, which I hope it does soon. We don't do an ROI on the annual school budget. We don't do an ROI on legislative salaries. So what are we talking about here? What we should really do is try it and find out what happens. And that's what we did. Well, the results were extraordinary. Within 2.5 weeks, we had filled every unopened job, and there were many. And we, at the same time as we were filling those jobs, we were coming to understand that providing free childcare had more than the kinds of results that we would ordinarily hear about. You know, we all know about the laws of unintended consequences. Well, we've been at the free childcare now for over a year. By the way, our payroll went up about 1.5% as a result of providing. And we had, at the end of the summer, we had 125 employee children being provided with free childcare. But at any rate, we were always concerned about unintended consequences, but we didn't have any, we have had no negatives, but we have had one unexpected positive. I've had an opportunity to personally speak with many of the employees that came to Smugglers as a result of free childcare. So we didn't do a formal study. So what I'm about to tell you came out of my personal discussions with many of those employees. You know, there's an old adage, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And when we talked to those employees who now were provided with free childcare, and rather than being home all day with a child, which can be stressful, as many of you on this call know, rather than that, their child was in an environment where they were making friends, where they were exposed to having fun, and in fact, were having a lot of fun. So the atmosphere in their homes had changed dramatically. That at the end of the day, they had first exhausted children, but in addition to that, they had happy children. And the feedback that they gave me is that their happy child had an incredible influence on their home lives. That they created a whole new atmosphere at home. And therefore, the family unit now was experiencing a much different kind of experience as a family. The relationship between the spouses changed, relationship with their children changed, and they came from a stressful environment to what can only be described as a much happier environment and a very happy environment. They ended up with a tight and happy families, which of course is positive for the community. The community gained because they brought home a paycheck, dollars then spent in the community. The child gained because the child was now having a great experience and much happier. And the family unit benefited as well. We didn't anticipate any of that when we decided to offer free childcare. But when we learned it, we said, I guess we did the right thing. And I'm very glad we did it. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Bill. I didn't know that story. That's an incredible story. Any questions for Bill? Same question? Oh,
Same question,
Yeah.
Bill, because, I mean, it's great, but as you know, not every employer can offer free childcare for their employees, and you have a volume of employees that enables you to have 125 kids in your childcare. That's astonishing. I mean, that's bigger than most childcare schools. So anyway, bravo. I guess I would ask, as an employer who provides it, would you support a payroll tax on all employers and employees in the state to pay for childcare that our other businesses are going to have to rely on?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that question. You know, as a business, we don't like any new taxes, but in this particular case, it's absolutely necessary in order for us to be able to go forward and get the kind of benefits that our families are getting now. And the nature of the tax and which of the taxes that have been offered is exactly the right tax or a combination of taxes, you know, is a question that I just have not had an opportunity to do enough work to decide what is best. However,
Yeah.
if that should be ultimately, if that should be the judgment of our legislature, then we would stand behind it. But we're not
Thank
ready.
you.
We're not ready today to say that that's the right answer.
Thanks, Bill. And I'll just say quickly, you know, as our committee thinks about whether we recommend a tax credit or not for businesses that are providing childcare on site, you just spoke really well to the additional benefits, the intangible benefits of doing that beyond just not having to pay twice. So that was still very helpful. So much appreciated, Bill. Sean from OnLogic, Sean Larkin, if you want to play music.
I would love to follow those two. That would be great. Thanks for that. Awesome. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Sean from.
Oh, Scene, I'm sorry.
It's weird.
Okay.
I'll answer to both. It's okay.
Good to know.
I'm the CEO of OnLogic. We're going to be one of the largest employers in the state rapidly. Was a company it's a global technology company that's housed in our beautiful state, founded by the Grunewald. And one of them is a native, and they have invested highly in the state. Wonderful people.
How many employees?
About 300. 300. Yeah. And
Growing.
growing, which is wonderful. And it causes some challenges. I am also a single father of 3. And I understand building a career around childcare and having a job and having to balance all of that in life. I wanted to talk about just maybe 2 or 3 points that I thought would be hopefully interesting, which is one, I've heard the notion that this is only an issue with people who have children. And I 100% disagree with this. I just like to say that publicly, because if you own a coffee shop, a restaurant, a business in our community, wouldn't you like more individuals that are working, that have money in their pockets to come and buy your goods and services? If you do not own a business, wouldn't you love more people to be at work, that want to be at work, that have that desire to have that wonderful job? So that we have many jobs that have either failed or have pulled back hours, and they are not open because they cannot fill those roles. This affects everybody, not just people with children. And there's a lot, if we could unlock that potential in the economy, there's a lot of good that can happen. There's also a notion that because of remote work, this is not a problem. I would also like to say that that is not true. The businesses that drive our economy, we have manufacturers, people that have to be online, our frontline workers, doctors in hospitals, firefighters. We have a housing crisis. Construction workers cannot do their job from home. We want our ski instructors to be on the slopes, and people that make our maple syrup, farmers. I mean, all of these people need to be present. So yes, there have been technological advances. That does not solve this problem, and it is not what is going to ultimately drive the entire economy of what we enjoy in Vermont. I am aware of and have had many discussions of individuals who would love to work. They cannot because their paycheck is actually lower than the total cost of childcare. And sometimes, sometimes people have families, a partner, friends that can help. Other people do not, and that is a very, very hard place to be. And sometimes when there's a decision of who might stay at home, it is my observation that whoever decides to be at home with the kids, their earnings potential is delayed because they spend years away from their craft. And that is very, very hard to come back from. And if we can do both, for those that want to work, we should. So I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to look at a very identifiable, solvable problem. And if we can show that there is this plan, and that's what I'm hoping that we're doing today, that we can fix this, I really do believe the business community will get behind it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve. Any questions?
Well, I have the same one.
I'm ready for you.
Oh, everybody's ready for it because it's the question we are going to wrestle with. It was just how to pay for it. We all agree this is essential.
This is a thing.
So, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't agree. I guess my first question, A, is do you provide a child care benefit on object?
It's kind of an indirect benefit. What we did is we found that there are different machinations of like our HSA or different offerings where we can make the payment for child care before taxes. And we've offered those vehicles to team members to where they can put in, before tax dollars into those vehicles to pay for childcare. That was the best that we could come up with to kind of identify and attack the problem.
But that's mostly on their backs.
But that's on them, and it's just a tax incentive.
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
That's what we've done. We offer, we have unlimited combined time off in our organization. So as people need to go home or whatever, they don't have just this limited hour of, oh, I have a vacation pay day. So, and those are up, or I have sick days. So we have combined time off and we have unlimited. So we hold people accountable to an outcome, but if they need to be home, if they need to flex, we offer that, support that.
That's great. And do you as a business, do you support a payroll tax as a piece
As a
of paying for
possibility,
this?
yes, because there were so many different variations, whether it comes to the payroll tax. I know this might be an indirect way. The statement is, we support solving the problem, and if it is an increase in cost in various taxes, we will support the legislature if that is what needs to do to fix this problem. We are behind it. Whichever one is the right thing for the state, the local governments, cities. If it's payroll tax, we are behind it.
So C, do you offer a payroll, do you all offer a paid family leave benefit?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it sounds like you might.
We do, and there's the amount that is dictated, and then we go beyond that. And so,
Thanks.
yes.
The buffer is generally for Senator Clark's to close at 5%. Thank you so
A, B, and
much.
C, all part of one.
Before you
yes.
figure out where you're going.
Okay,
Sorry for
here's
the
the
small committee
chairs.
room. Sam, you're next, so I don't know.
You sit here and I'll just
Okay.
scoot over.
Oh, no, I will keep going, but actually, I don't want to skip Eric Sorkin from Run Amok Maple. So we're going back on Zoom, but you might still want to, someone should sit in the wings.
I can find my
You
way.
sit, you sit in the
I thought
witness
mine
chair.
was the only room. I ended up with the lobbyist in the hall.
We're all facing
Oh,
the same issue.
Eric,
Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Keisha, and members of the committee. This is really great. It's excellent hearing from so many other business owners. I really appreciate the opportunity to testify today on the urgent need for a robust public investment in Vermont's childcare infrastructure. I'm Eric Sorkin, together with my wife. We own and operate Run Amok Maple. It's mostly a syrup manufacturing business. We have about 100 employees working at 3 different facilities. Most of them are in Fairfax, but we have some employees in Cambridge and Bolton as well. And I'm also speaking today as a parent of 2 teenage children. There's a lot of business owners testifying today, and I trust that speaks volumes about the impact of this issue and its importance to Vermont's business community. I'm not as close to this issue as many of the others here. I joined today just to add my voice and to clearly state that the lack of quality, affordable childcare, it greatly impacts my business and our employees. From my perspective, the situation has deteriorated significantly since the onset of COVID. And really, we'd just be negligent not to respond at this point. Our employees are struggling to prioritize their economic health and well-being while simultaneously prioritizing their children's healthy development. The choices they need to make are incredibly challenging. And I can also reiterate what countless other business owners have already stated. The lack of quality, affordable childcare is keeping people out of the workforce. I've seen it firsthand, and it is a most definite drag on our business. Honestly, I think at this point, pretty much everyone agrees that there's a significant problem with where things currently stand. We know it's costing working families millions of dollars, which they can't afford. We know it's keeping workers out of the workforce. We know it makes it harder for employers to accommodate parents' needs. And now we also know how much it'll cost to virtually solve the problem. And we have data to show that it will produce a positive return if we choose to make the public investment. It seems to me that the only relevant question left is what we plan to do about it. Like Bill said, as a business owner, I will readily submit that I don't believe every problem demands a government solution. However, in this case, if we don't take legislative action, this problem will just simply persist. There's just no reasonable hope that this will get better unless the government steps in. So I'm going to get your question before you ask me. If you ask me as a business owner or as a parent,
I'm just fine.
what's that? Good. Or as
I'd love to hear the answer before I ask it.
yeah, or as a taxpayer, if I'm personally willing to pay the modest cost needed to fix this, the answer is a resounding yes. Yeah. So thank you for your time and attention today.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Erin.
you very much.
Senator Cummings was just speaking about how great it was to see your products in Maine yesterday.
Yes, we had a slide on it in one with some of our testimonies.
I think it was Vermont Housing Conservation
Yeah.
Board.
Yes.
Featured you in their
Yeah.
presentation. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would just ask thank you for your support of whatever we figure out. I guess I would ask, what do you currently offer? Do you have a child care benefit or a paid family leave benefit?
Honestly, my stories, other than getting, 1,000th as involved as Michelle has gotten, we have a kind of similar story. We looked into it. We kind of started running up against brick walls about putting on-site childcare. We did some. That's how I initially got introduced to Let's Grow Kids Vermont. We set aside space. We had a third party prepped and ready to set up, at our expense, and that fell through after a couple of years of work. So that's gone nowhere. Just like Michelle said, we're just not in the business of doing it, and it's not something we know how to do. Otherwise, we do similar to what Sean said, where we do a pre-tax withholding that our employees can use childcare. We do have unlimited combined time off for employees that it makes sense for, that don't each report to an office. For everyone else, it's just, it's flex work. So that's about it.
Thank you. Great. So Sam, I know that I think you got called last night to join this group, and you're such a champ. So thanks so much for being here. My husband loves his Vermont gloves.
I was going to say, I hope it's true. And our former page, who we love and adore,
That's right.
Sam Milford.
It's been a long time. It's like, how do I remember where all the rooms are?
Yeah, I bet you could do it in your sleep.
Yeah. I can do it by committee chair, can't do it by room number.
Oh, well, there's that.
Hi, thanks for having me. Sam Hooper, Brookfield, Vermont. Born and raised in the area, and I own and operate a company called Vermont Glove. We manufacture high quality leather work gloves for the trade sector and for consumers alike. I also derive from a family business in the food industry called Vermont Creamery. So manufacturing is in my bones, and I'm very proud to manufacture our product in the state of Vermont. We're a fast growing company, but we're a small team. We have 12 employees in production, and that means for us to compete with larger glove companies around the world, we have to be extraordinarily lean and thoughtful about every strategic move we make in our business. So, but one challenge of being lean and growing quickly, it has become this childcare crisis and lack thereof. So us too, like Michelle and Eric, looked at putting childcare, taking it in-house and buying the building next door to our factory and figuring out how to staff that. And of course, 1,000,001 issues came up with staffing, and just that's a whole nother business in itself. I only have so much bandwidth as the only kind of administrative and executive in our business right now. So we realized we need to stick to what we're good at, and that's making gloves. But we also realized that we need to do whatever we can for our workforce to make sure that we retain them. So when we go to hire a new employee, it takes 3 months to train them. So once I've had somebody, I can't lose them. So we put a lot of resources into employee retention, but a place where we don't have the skill set is in this childcare issue. And if I could just solve it by writing checks, then I would. But there's an equity issue associated with that also from business to business. And some are able to do it, some are not able to do it. And we can't alienate the small business community, which is the majority of Vermont employers, just because they're too lean and mean to be able to bring it in-house. So I very much believe in a comprehensive statewide program that is not a patchwork fix. It's a robust, well-funded solution that has lasting impact. Because like Bill said, the ROI, it's not about an immediate ROI. It's about us continuing to invest in this state. You know, Michelle brings this up all the time. We as business owners, at the end of the year, we look at our CapEx budget and we say, what are the capital expenditures? What are the investments that we're going to make to make sure our business is successful the next year and the next year and the next year and keep it moving to a better future? That's what Vermont needs to do right now. We have an opportunity to do that right now. Given how drastically this issue is impacting the private sector, and for a lot of what happens across the street and whether stuff gets vetoed, it has to do with the business sector for Governor Scott. And so it feels like a thing that both sides of the aisle can get behind, and we can fund this thing. And to answer your question, Senator Clarkson, 100%, we will support payroll tax. We will make up that in troves quickly, just by having a person be able to come into work. The number that we have crunched is we have a 30% reduction in production on any given day that we are missing a key employee. That's how lean our operation is. And so what it's required us to do. Your next question is our benefits. Have we done that? We don't have a comprehensive benefits package that says we'll pay for your childcare or subsidize your childcare. But what we do is we give you as much time off as you. If you can't come into work, we're not going to penalize you with your vacation pay. We're going to make sure you can make ends meet and provide for that child. And what result happens is we often have kids in our factory, and keep that off the press, but that's not exactly ideal. So
they're in the safe places.
that's exactly right. So anyways, that's my story. That's how much it's impacted us, and that's how much we believe in the need to bring public policy and private sector together to solve for working Vermonters. And this really isn't so I can make more money. This is so my employees can come to work and make money. This is an equity issue.
We love that the business community comes in with hard numbers about how this is impacting you and also the intangible stories as well. Senator Clarkson.
And the intangible nobody's talked about is the huge benefit to the state in the 0 to 5 issue, because trauma costs the state billions of dollars. If we can affect children's lives between 0 and 5 with high quality super childcare, we get kids' lives off to a better start. We will save billions and billions of dollars in corrections, in mental health, in school health. I mean, people need to start talking about that too, because that is a huge equity. When you go to equity, and I love that you started with that, Sam. It's a huge piece of this, and yeah, it's critically important.
I think people fit that in around the edges, given we're the Economic Development Committee.
And we hope we'll have you back on housing, because you're also an entrepreneur who's also solving our housing issues in his own
Happy
way.
to come back.
You're so close.
Although that's going to add to your reduction in production.
That's right. That's why I was later.
You can stay there if you
Okay.
want, because we're gonna go to Cara from Honey Road. And I hope I'm saying it right. I have such a hard time remembering, but it's really nice to see you, and we love Honey Road.
Thanks. Oh, thank you. Kara. It is Kara.
Sarah.
Like Sarah. It's
Sarah.
okay. It's okay. It happens all the time. Thank you so much for hearing from all of us. It's just, I realize as I'm listening to this, honestly, like what Bill was saying, I was almost in tears, because I have literally lived this situation from both sides as a mother and as a business owner. And the toll that it has taken on my family, on my, marriage at times it's really been intense. And, so anyway, I didn't even say, so I am Kara Tobin. I own Honey Road, and now Gray Jay, both in Burlington. I'm a mother of 2, 7 and 3. So, we're in it. And, my husband and I moved back to Vermont. He was born and raised here, and I lived here a long time ago, and we spent time in California and in Massachusetts. And our goal was always to move back to Vermont, to sort of have that Vermont dream, to raise our kids here, in the environment that we wanted. And we did that, and very quickly learned that some things weren't going to go as we thought. My oldest was 1 when we moved back to Vermont, and I started looking for childcare because as I moved, that was when I was starting to open Honey Road. And during the time that it took to open the restaurant, and I mean, not before the doors opened, but all that work that had to be done before the doors opened, I was also looking for childcare. And as the opening date approached, I still had no childcare. We ended up having to piece it together and it wasn't for lack of trying, believe me. I didn't want to bring him to all the meetings I had to go to anymore. I didn't want to have to drag him around, to equipment stores and all the things that I ended up bringing him to, but there was nowhere for me to bring him. We ended up piecing it together with my in-laws and a part-time nanny share that cost us well more than any of the childcare centers would have cost. But we had no choice because we couldn't get in. I said at that time, and I still believe it, that it was easier to open Honey Road than it was to find childcare in the state. And I'm not I don't have family money. I had to find money to open this place. I had to staff it. I designed it. I did everything from top to bottom. And it was still easier than finding childcare for my son. That in itself is stuck with me. And when I had my second child, I've tried to get ahead of the game. I really did. I started getting on wait lists way ahead of time before he was even born. I paid all the wait list fees. I just looked and looked and looked and couldn't again find anything. And again, as when he was born, I ended up having to piece it together with in-laws and nanny shares. It wasn't until he was 2.5, and again, I was searching that entire time, that I finally found a place that would take him part-time. And it was only, last September, literally last September, that I finally had both of my kids in full-time care. And this whole time I've been trying to run this restaurant, run the new restaurant, and it's been incredibly difficult. I can't even tell you what, I don't sleep a lot. I'm really tired. And it's just a system that I felt like I thought it was going to be different when I moved here, and it wasn't. From the other side, as a business owner, I see my employees going through the same thing, and it breaks my heart. And also, what I do know is that we cannot right now. We are not operating at full capacity in our the two restaurants because we don't have the staff to open the restaurant full time. And part of that is that people cannot find childcare to take the jobs. We've looked into childcare subsidy, which we are working on currently. There's, no way that I could look into opening a childcare situation here. We just, restaurants run on such small margins. There's nothing that I could do in that realm. And it's just heartbreaking to watch people really want to come to work and get out of their house. I mean, that's again, like what Bill was saying, like get out of their house, being stuck. It's incredibly lonely. And I mean, I have been at some of the lowest points of my life, being at home, wanting to, work my job, wanting to pursue my career because I couldn't find childcare. So even like my own mental health, from a business standpoint, it would be incredibly beneficial to us if there was, a help with the childcare situation, because I would be able to open for more hours. I would be able to employ more people. I would be able to, pay more taxes to the state because I could be open more. It would benefit the Vermont economy if my restaurants were open more. So, and then on top of that, my other issue is that, in dealing with childcare centers, my youngest is currently at childcare right now. And, when I talk to the teachers and I hear about the income that they're making, and then I come back to my restaurant and I look at the income that the folks at the restaurant are making, and I say, the line cooks are making double what the teachers that are taking care of my child are making. And not to say that either job is more important than the other, but I'm entrusting someone with my child and they're making such a low wage that, they question whether or not they want to stay in the industry. It's heartbreaking. I find this whole situation really heartbreaking. And, the last thing I would say is this is obviously a problem, because if all these folks that are talking to you today weren't saying that they looked into childcare, situations in their business subsidy, like they wouldn't be saying that if it wasn't a problem. So, I mean, we clearly know it's a problem. We need help. We need help. Families need help with childcare. Teachers need help with better wages. There needs to be more availability. There needs to be more quality. It's just the bottom line. And, would I support a payroll tax if that's what it was? Absolutely. I would love to help my community. I mean, that's one of the draws of why I wanted to open a restaurant in Vermont, was because of the community. It's so important to me to be a good member of the community and to give back to the community. And I think that that's sort of the ethos of what a lot of Vermont folks, sort of live. That why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we giving back? Why aren't we taking care of our community members when they're screaming at the top of their lungs, we need help with this, on top of housing and all that other stuff. So I think I said everything I needed to say.
Thank you so much, Kara, and thanks for, really making it so personal and visceral. That's extremely brave as a business owner, and it also makes me grateful you took the time, out of a very, as you said, marginal amount of time and resources you have running restaurants. For what it's worth, I grew up in my parents' Irish pub, and they dragged me to breweries and equipment purchases, and I feel better for it, but it's not easy as a parent to make that decision. So thank you. Any
It's not even,
questions? Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's not even like I love bringing them, when I absolutely need to, but my job these days is to fill in the gaps of what we need within the restaurant. So, some days I'm on the line, some days I'm running the line, some days I'm dishwashing. I mean, and if I don't have childcare, I can't fill those gaps in our staffing. And there's times where we have to limit the menu, we have to limit hours, we have to limit, any number of things. And the staff doesn't make as much money. We don't bring in as much money, so it just affects things from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks, Kara. Any follow-up questions or comments? And I know I would say this to anybody. I really appreciate people staying to hear others, which sounds like it might even be beneficial or therapeutic. But if you have to go, that's also okay. Testify. Thank you, Kara. We really appreciate it.
Totally. Thank you.
So now we'll do a chair switch in the room again. James Moore is next from Sun Common.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. James Moore, I'm the co-founder and president of Sun Common. I live here in the wonderful town of Montpelier with our senator, Cummings. My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest, Louisa, is 6, so she's in kindergarten and just out of, so the early child care schooling is a recent memory for us. Sun Common believes that businesses should create positive change and help solve the world's biggest problems. Our mission is to accelerate the transition to solar power in our communities, because ensuring a habitable planet is the most important work of our lifetime. Sun Common is based in Waterbury and is part of iSun, which is headquartered in Williston. And all told, we have more than 300 employees working on that economic acceleration. The lifeblood of our business is our staff, as was mentioned, and they work really hard. They're incredibly dedicated, and they're working to carve out a living here in Vermont. So I thought, yesterday afternoon, I'd put out a call and ask for input from our staff, and thinking maybe I'll get 1 or 2 comments that I could structure a testimony around for the committee. I got flooded.
Oh, you had as many emails as I did
With
last
emails.
night.
And so I thought the best thing that I could do with my limited time with you all today was bring their voice to the committee for you. And some of them had a lot to say, so I tried to trim it down. The first staff member, and it was fun because we had staff across the organization, somebody emailing in from the warehouse, somebody who's installing solar panels, somebody who's installing energy storage systems, somebody from sales, somebody from marketing. It really was a broad spectrum across the company. My wife and I did the math when our daughter was little, and spending 1/3 of her take-home income for high quality care in preschool didn't make a lot of sense. She delayed her career by more than 2 years to stay home and or work part-time. Next staff member, while I may not have a child now, my wife and I have wanted to have one for a very long time. Vermont's lack of early childhood care, coupled with its high costs and inflation, have us feeling almost hopeless. Vermont has a rapidly aging population because barely anyone can afford to have a kid. It's not about a lack of jobs. We both love our jobs, but have considered moving out of state in order to have a kid. Finding and affording childcare for our family has been a massive challenge. And it is only an incredible stroke of luck that we found a spot that allowed both my partner and I to keep our jobs. After more than 10 months of searching, a task that became its own part-time job. We spend over 25% of our take-home income on childcare. The teachers I've talked to are making less than or just barely a livable wage for work that is vital in our communities. Additionally, the inability to retain staff has affected the hours of our childcare centers open, 25+ days where they've either closed early or closed for the whole day due to lack of staffing. In Vermont, if Vermont can be a leader in making childcare accessible and affordable for everyone, our future will be immeasurably transformed. Next staff person. My wife received her master's in early childhood development and ultimately moved away from teaching because of how woefully underpaid teachers are. She ultimately had to return to teaching so that we could at least get a break in tuition for our daughter, because that tuition, as you know, is not cheap. We are lucky to have that option, but it is a sacrifice. It's hard to imagine that what it is like for the significant population of families who don't have the opportunity to get kids into early childhood education. State-funded, AKA public early childhood education, is a no-brainer. 10 hours a week is not even close to enough. Our next step person.
Could you send these to Scott so that we can have these? Because it would be great for a variety.
Yeah.
And if anyone wrote their testimony, feel free to send it to Scott.
Yeah, everybody. It'd be great.
I'll send you the unabridged version. My wife
Feel
and
free
I.
to edit.
My wife and I are expecting our first child in April. We are very excited and nervous. We had always planned to have a child after we bought our first home. We unfortunately started to look for homes right as the pandemic hit. We have viewed many homes since then, but are always outbid with buyers going well over asking price. We had finally decided that it's just not the right time to buy a home, but didn't want to wait any longer to have a child. Now that we have a little one on the way, we have started discussing childcare. My wife is a vet tech, but makes a low wage. We are very concerned we will not be able to afford childcare. We are considering her stopping work so that she can stay home for childcare. This is obviously a huge blow to us financially and makes saving for our first home even more challenging. Thank you for working on the housing issue.
They do go hand in glove.
There is a need for vet techs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to know this. I used to know many families that would split time with their kids, with one parent working nights and one days, which didn't leave much time together as a family. My partner reached out to a number of childcare centers in Morrisville, Stowe, Waterbury, and Williston, but many wouldn't even call you back. When you could get someone on the phone, they would tell you that the wait list was 70 or 80 families. Some would say they're just not going to have space indefinitely because siblings wouldn't put you, and they wouldn't even put you on the wait list. All in all, I think not having some sort of better funded system is going to cost the state money in the long run, as more and more folks either move out of state or drop out of the workforce. They employ very smart people. The next one. And we are getting towards the end. My wife and I are strongly committed to the idea of our son having a sibling, which has changed the course of our life. And I obviously wouldn't change a single thing about that, except maybe I would change the state's mandate to assist in care. The pandemic forced my partner to lose her marketing position at the tail end of her maternity leave. So we're in the single income, 2 kids experiment right now. The idea that our culture doesn't recognize the value of early childhood care or even attempt to offset some of it with a universal child care standard is really hard for us to understand. It's infuriating, but the rewards of parenting can outweigh just about anything. We persist. We're really at a point where the ability to have kids feels like a luxury. This broke my heart. I can't tell you the percentage of my friends that aren't having or are postponing kids due to the high cost of living, but it's a majority. What kind of culture are we paving the way for with this imbalance of priorities? So this is why I'm here today. It's for our staff, for the heart and soul of Sun Common. Early childhood education is an investment in Vermont's future, but I'm not talking about just the kids who will benefit. I believe that the system as it's structured today doesn't serve our communities, it doesn't serve our businesses, and it certainly doesn't serve our young families. Thanks for grappling with this issue, for working to address the housing crisis, which also acutely impacts our staff, and for working to ensure that Vermont does our part to address the climate crisis. Some heady topics. So I appreciate your time. To your question, Senator Clarkson, we have a dependent care account set up. We have a parental leave.
I'm sorry, dependent care
Yeah, it's the,
for both children
DCA.
and parents.
no, it's the DCA, it's the pre-tax.
Oh, right, the
Monies.
pre-tax fees. Okay.
I don't know if that 5,000 limit is federally set, but raising that
That's a
would
good
be
question.
an intriguing question. Because
Good treatment.
5,000, yeah,
Okay,
I thought so.
well, we can still ask somebody to do something.
We know people.
Well, yeah, now we know what.
We know some.
Right. We do have a paid leave program for our staff. And we also cover 100% of our employees' healthcare for them and their families, including the deductibles. And with those expenses, no, we don't have an additional paid childcare
Right. And
program separate.
the payroll tax.
Absolutely supportive. Yep. And I don't know if there's a way to structure that would be tiered, where
By income, you
it
mean?
might be a lower percentage for lower income, probably might be an assistance more to smaller businesses that might have lower income staff.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll look at that.
You,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What three
I'm sure
members
you
of
are.
finance again?
And advocate.
We have been sharing a lot from this committee. I'll speak for myself. I have been that, you know, we have a lot of other existential challenges we want to take on, like the climate crisis and our housing issues. And this was a really good reminder that our climate workforce is also thinking about, you know, how they could keep doing what they do and how their spouses are doing, their partners are doing. You know, so again, I want to encourage our colleagues to watch this testimony as well. So we'll be sending it out. Appreciate you bringing that home.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, it was next.
On Zoom, David Watts from Simon Pierce.
Ah, David. Wow,
Hello,
good
good
to
morning.
see you.
Nice to see you. Hello, Senator Clarkson. Good morning. Thanks for allowing me some time this morning. My name is David Watts, and I'm the Director of Human Resources at Simon Pierce, which has manufacturing, retail, and restaurant staff in Windsor and Quechee, and also a retail location in Burlington. We employ nearly 200 employees in Vermont, but I'm also a Windsor County resident with 2 children who are aged 15 and 4. And my family has had the very good fortune to have free full-day pre-K through our town's elementary school. We live in a high-tax, high-income town that's able to provide this service, and we're incredibly grateful to be able to have that service because the care is high and the staffing is consistent. But because our state investment in childcare funding overall is so insufficient and inconsistent, it means that we have options that a lot of other Vermonters, including our own employees here at Simon Pierce, don't have. And our current childcare system exacerbates the opportunity and the income gap that exists between towns and regions here in Vermont. So the piece that you were speaking to, Senator Clarkson, about equitable access is really important. It's just unfair and inequitable that access to quality care for young children varies based on zip code within the state. Here at Simon Pierce, we've had the good fortune, extreme good fortune to experience some pretty significant growth in the demand for our products and services in the last 3 years across all of our business lines, web, wholesale, retail, and without question, the most significant restriction to our growth is the limited availability of workers. So just I'm gonna geek out on some data for just a second. If we were to use Windsor County population data, and with an estimate of approximately 2,900 workers entering the workforce, when there is affordable, accessible childcare available, that would mean approximately 207 additional workers would be able to enter the workforce here in Windsor County. And that influx of workers would have a significant impact on our business, on recruitment, retention, and particularly the reliability of workers to be here every day at Simon Pierce, and therefore improve service and productivity. We're about to finish a 2,000 square foot glass blowing floor expansion here in Windsor in the next 3 months. We're very excited about this, and our biggest stressor is finding the people who are going to be glass blowers, warehouse workers, and also restaurant staff at the restaurant in Quechee. But if we were able to do so, then we'd be adding dozens of well-paying, fully benefited jobs here in the Upper Valley. We know, and our experience shows that this problem is bigger than any one community or business can solve. I see that here in my community. I've been doing HR work for 20 years here in the Upper Valley. And I see and admire the hard work that's being done throughout the Upper Valley for increasing childcare capacity. I'm incredibly fortunate to serve as a board member at Vital Communities, which is an organization here in the Upper Valley that has a deep commitment to helping solve the childcare crisis locally in the bi-state region of New Hampshire and Vermont. But I know in my heart of hearts that's not going to be the full answer. And local and regional solutions can't solve the low wage issues. They can't solve for lack of access. And local solutions can't solve for affordability. So to wrap up my statements, as a parent and as a citizen of Vermont and as an employer, I really do urge us to take the bold and right step to invest in our in a comprehensive childcare system that's going to support and serve all Vermonters. To answer your question about the benefits that we offer here at Simon Pierce, we offer paid time off, which has a lot of flexibility to it, and we also allow our employees to dip into the negative if necessary in order to meet their needs. But in particular, as it relates to childcare issues, we're very willing to work with our employees and find a way to help them stay on the payroll, to the extent that we also participate in United Way's Work United program, which supports employees with their social needs, and not just childcare, but also helping find fuel assistance and housing and legal issues and so forth. It's a really remarkable program. And also similarly to the gentleman from SunCommon, we also do offer a dependent care pre-tax savings account and that $5,000 that employees can save for pre-tax. So happy to answer any questions. And yes, and Simon, I'm sorry.
How do you and Simon feel about the payroll tax as a way to as in part of way to finance it?
Yeah, I can't speak for Simon, but I can speak for our CEO Jay Benson. So we would support a small increase to our payroll tax in order to support a state solution for childcare.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for David? Thank you so much.
Oh, I guess one.
Yes.
Just a number. How many employees are you at the moment?
In total, about 320 across all of our locations. So that's 12 retail locations. We also have a manufacturing facility in Maryland.
Right. Great, thanks.
Everyone can stay where they are. Ryan. And tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Tetra.
Tetra, okay. That would be my first guess. But
Hi, I'm Ryan. I own and run a general contracting business here in Vermont. We do work all over Vermont, but mostly Chittenden County. I live in Lamoille County in Morrisville with my wife and a 15-month-old daughter. She got me involved in this campaign. As some of you know, in my field of work, it's pretty important to be on the job site every day. Some other industries can adapt to working from home. But in construction, that's pretty tough. Early morning start times in my field of work, and travel, drop off. That's put a lot of burden on my wife, who also works full time. So, it's been pretty tough for us. And we've talked about just trying to live off of her income, but it's almost impossible. That's daycare is our second largest expense for our family. So it's pretty important to have that childcare. Our childcare currently is in Williston, 50 minutes from our house. We've been on waiting lists for in the area for a while. Not for lack of trying. My wife is pretty persistent, but she got on the waiting list almost 2 years ago, and we're still not getting one in our area. But in order to support our economy and grow my business, we need childcare, accessible childcare, quality childcare, and affordable for our family. This will be an expense, but it's kind of the only way to solve this issue. So thank you for my time today, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ryan. I asked Ali to specifically see if we could talk to somebody in construction, because it's what my husband does as well. And I'm anecdotally hearing that he's losing a lot of, men who are the ones who can more easily walk off the job for a day or two.
Sure. Yeah.
So just want to make sure we highlight that, in your industry that's building homes and getting our housing stock back online, you're also seeing, a traditionally male-dominated field where people are having to stay home for childcare.
Yeah, for sure.
So a smaller employer. I mean, how many people do you employ, Ryan? Are you a single?
Oh, just one other.
So smaller, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's small because most of your other businesses are fairly good size. So
right.
It's critical.
And in the conversation with your wife, you've thought about maybe just living off of her income and benefits is what it sounds like.
Yes. She has very quality health coverage. So, we would go that direction, but it's almost impossible to live off just the one income.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much. Any other questions for Ryan? As we get to the last few witnesses, I really want to thank you for your patience and listening to others as well. And especially Brian Leffler, our last witness from Instramart. Thank you for being here.
I'm Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Thanks for having me. So, wow, last one. What can I say that hasn't been said? So
I'm sure you'll find something.
Excellent. You're gonna laugh because I'm answering your question right from the beginning of my testimony. So, hey, I work over at Instramart. Instramart is a 34-year-old Vermont company. We sell industrial instrumentation. It's a very high-tech business. We have a national audience. We have 70 families working there. It's an incredibly employee-focused company. I'm very proud of it, and I spent my whole life making it an employee-focused company. And in fact, when people ask me what my job is, I say I'm very good at taking care of 70 families, and that's what allowed our company to grow. As Michelle said, our people is my company, and they take care of our customers. They do everything. I don't do anything compared to all the stuff that they do. So we have this very employee-focused company. And then we have 100% employer paid healthcare for the whole family. There's no deductibles, there's no co-pays. You guys may know my brother's the president of the hospital. I'm embarrassed when I go to the doctor. We have better coverage than he does. Okay, it's a weird system, but we're working on all those issues. So about investing in people. So Kara made a point yesterday. I spoke with Kara today about Honey Road, and she said that in 1 hour of operation, she could cover in a month the payroll taxes being proposed to solve this childcare issue. So I ran the same numbers for my business, and in 4 hours on 1 day of the year, we would cover our 0.9% payroll tax for the year. And so if you would ask me if I would invest that money to solve this problem for all the families of Vermont, I absolutely would do that, and without hesitation. So Vermont is a very special state, and we're all here because we still believe in community, okay? And then we still like to take care of our neighbor. And this is like when Vermont goes through the COVID crisis, we have the highest vaccination rate in the state. We have the earliest vaccination rate in the state because we still all care about each other, which is a unique benefit of all living in Vermont, which is why we all love to live here. And so this is the same thing. This is why we're not going to solve this problem on an individual level or on an individual business level. And even if we could, there's a huge amount of quality issues associated with that. I've heard some great quotes today about, by zip code and stuff, and that's not what we want for the children of Vermont. So earlier I said that I would gladly spend some company resources to solve this issue. And I want to say though, as a businessman, I am not viewing this as an expense at all. I view this as an investment, and it has, I think an investment has an ROI, although I think as Bill said, sometimes you don't even need the ROI. But what I see is when you make an investment, it's going to have future rewards. And I think the rewards are widespread. I think it's going to help our children with their K-12 education. I think it's going to help more Vermont kids go to college. I think it's going to help more available workers come into the workforce. And then, another thing, some people are working partial schedule, some people just aren't working out, and some of these people are rock stars, and they're sitting on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. And so I think today we've all highlighted that we need to pull together and solve this problem for the benefit of everyone. So I think when we make this investment, we're going to result in improved quality of life for all the families of Vermont. And I think that's what we all want. We don't want some families to have it, some not. And the state needs to pull together, our communities need together, we need to take care of this. So my last thought is I think we're going to get back more than we invest. I think it's going to have a positive ROI. I think it's time to make the investment, invest in the state of Vermont, invest in our children, and invest for the future. And I think now's the time.
Right.
Right. Thank you. Questions? Well, great. I wanted to, it's better to have a little time left at the end than to run out of time. And I tried not to offer a preamble just in case we were going to get low on time. But I think, one of the important things for us about having this hearing was just like all of you, we can get deep into the dollars and cents and forget why we're doing what we're doing. And we need our policy committees to be zooming back out and saying, what is the benefit to the state? And of course, our health and welfare committee is looking every day at the impact on our youngest minds and their impact on future, needs in society. And you all have really brought home for us, the impact on parents and the impact on, those trying to balance everything they're trying to do with their lives and enjoy their quality of life here in Vermont while contributing to our economy and our communities. So I have really appreciated this. And as I said, I'm gonna make sure we share this with our colleagues, just in case an opportunity like this doesn't come again. There's so many great business leaders who are doing so much around the state, share their thoughts on why this is so critical. Representative Hooper, nice to see you.
Senator, sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, you're fine. So I know this was really valuable for us, and I'll just let my colleagues on the committee share any final comments or questions. We do have a few minutes, and then we could break a few minutes early and let you all get back to the other work that you do. Anybody want to offer?
No, it's been helpful. Some of us get very buried in the weeds of dollars. I chair the finance committee. We're going to have to do how we pay for this.
And we're all going to have to vote for it.
Yes. And so between appropriations and myself, we are talking, but it's very helpful to remember why.
This will be a transformative issue.
Yeah.
It will be. For all the host of reasons, all those rewards that we've touched on. from stress, family stress, trauma, getting workers back to work.
Getting workers coming from Vermont, making Vermont a leader. We've led many times in the past. We're a small state to get things done.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we need to market this as well. Absolutely right, Ann.
This will market itself.
Along with our remote relocation.
I saw Kara put her hand up on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, and you know, I think restaurants get, I mean, we're such a huge part of the state, the tourism industry, and I think restaurants kind of get left out of this conversation sometimes because they think because a lot of us operate at nighttime, oh, we don't need childcare, but a lot of the stuff that we do is during the day, and even that staff member who's going to come in for an evening shift, their shift does start, you know, in the afternoon. And so having access to childcare during daytime, you know, the work hours, the 9 to 5 is still really important. So, you know, just making sure that we remember that this is a huge industry in the state that really adds to the economy. And again, just because our hours are a little different doesn't mean that we don't need it. So
Yeah.
We're clear on this.
But thank you, Kara. I mean, so many of you speak to the Vermont brand and why we're a global leader in the way we think and do business, but also why people come here. And that speaks really heavily to our restaurant and hospitality industry, which you're right, and sometimes get left out of the conversation. Was it Ryan or Senator Harris? Did someone else on the screen have their hand up? Oh, Senator Harris. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to say thanks to all of the witnesses. It was extremely helpful, and just the variety of the businesses, you sharing your personal stories as well as your employees' stories and the effects on your business. That's extremely helpful. And if you could submit any written testimony, that would be very helpful because we received a lot of information today. And I, you know, in preparing for this job, I'm new. I had read a lot, but hearing it directly from you is different, and it's more meaningful. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Senator Harris. Well said. Senator Brock, I don't want to put you on the spot. Is there anything you want to
I
do?
learned more by listening rather than talking. But I want to thank all of you for coming. It was both interesting and informative, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you all again. I don't think there's anything else. I've tried to say all of the nice things I can about the gratitude we all have in the legislature for everything you do to take care of Vermonters and understand their struggles. You know, someone said, I think it was James, but you know, you're problem solvers, and you know, partnering with government and knowing when you have a limitation that we need to fill and vice versa is really critical for all Vermonters. So thank you again. And we'll stay in touch as we progress, and really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you.
Stay tuned and be in touch if you hear directions we're going in that you think may need redirection. What, you know, this is the beginning of a dialogue we have.
Great. Yes. And committee, we're back at 10:45, and we have another large group of witnesses on homelessness. So
that's what the tent is about upstairs. So
okay.
You have a full day.
We have a full day.